Hole number 1 here is 307 feet, par 3. Your first obstacle to navigate are going to be these first 2 trees right off the tee pad here. If you do happen to get an unfortunate kick, or if you decide to go up left, there is OB left. Beyond that fence there's a city swimming pool. And then typically to the right, the street would typically be your OB. Depending on your tournament director, could be the sidewalk. So make sure to read up on your OB rules before teeing off. Your main target that you want to try and throw towards would be this tree right here, or this cedar to the right. And the basket is currently in the long position. Your main concern, if you do happen to end up a little bit short, or if you push it long, is a roll away down this hill here to the north. If you got a safe chance at it, go for the birdie, but keep in mind that roll away can be really nasty. Second pin placement is actually where we're coming around here, just underneath the branches. For the cedar tree, you might see a bronze, kind of brass looking cap there. Main concern there would just be a roll away to the east down that hill towards the street. Otherwise, pitch up, take your easy par. Hole 2 here is 310 feet, par 3. Right off tee box, you have the option of going up and over to the right of these big tall trees, but typically you're going to see people go right down this gap towards these cedars. You could also go out and to the left with a big forehand, or if you're a lefty. Otherwise, most people are going to go down this. This is probably one of the iconic holes of the course. A lot of people are kind of going to remember after you play this for either a tournament or a casual round. OB you're going to have to contend with would typically be the road to the right there, and there's another road cutting into the park right there. I believe that would typically also be OB. Your tournament director could also make the sidewalk OB there. There is a second pin placement kind of to the left, just behind the basket right now. It doesn't make too much of a difference for the hole, other than it simply just kind of hides the basket behind that big tree right there. Otherwise though, you're typically just trying to get down this flat, have a chance for a birdie. Hole number 3 here is 369 feet, par 3. This is an uphill shot, and it's probably one of the more demanding holes on the course. Typically you're going to see people try to go in between this tree and the cedars right here up this gap. Occasionally you might see somebody hanging out to the right there around those cedars, but you do kind of tend to flirt with getting into the fairway for hole number 4. So depending on your tournament director, they may set a mando where you have to come inside of these trees. Typically you're just wanting to try to get up onto this flat somewhere about here, and then try to pitch up to that big tree that we're coming towards right now with the basket off to the right. Very rare you're ever going to see somebody get a birdie on this hole. It's definitely a very challenging hole. You can see the McCook water tower in the background there, just for frame of reference where we're at, if you happen to see that water tower or new to the course. Typically this hole is, usually you're feeling pretty good if you play this for a par and you happen to get it. If it's a windy day, this hole can be very challenging, so keep that in mind for your game plan if you're planning to come out and play this course for a tournament. Hole number 4 here is 396 feet, par 3. Downhill, and this is definitely a picturesque, beautiful hole on this course. A lot of people will remember this one, but they'll also feel maybe possibly a little bit humbled by this one. Typically most people are going to try and thread the needle down this gap, staying to the right of those cedars off to the left here, and that big tall tree in the middle of the fairway. You may see somebody try to throw a roller down this, or even try to play a big Anheuser flex way up over the top. Usually people are going to try to go down this gap at it. If there is any OB to contend with, typically it's probably going to be that OB road long there that we're looking at. In terms of pin placement difference, this is I think the main pin placement, and then there's one off into the right here we're just going to jaunt over. It's closer to this tree that we're going to go by onto the right side. There'll be a little bronze cap or metal cap kind of sticking up over the ground there. And doesn't make too much of a big difference there. You can kind of see it right there. Otherwise, you're just mainly trying to get down on that flat, have a chance for that birdie putt. If you don't, just play some smart golf, lay up, get your par 3. Otherwise, enjoy the view. This is a picturesque hole. Hole number 5 here is 229 feet, par 3. It's a pretty straightforward hole. The only obstacles you're going to have to deal with are potentially these low-hanging branches here. But typically it's going to be this one tree kind of in the middle right that we're looking at right now. Might obstruct your line. The biggest threat for this hole is actually the slope green. We're approaching on the hill right here, drops off also to the right, and there's a little bit of a drop off behind it. The basket's currently in the short pin placement. There's a metal cap that'll come in a frame right here, that's the long. And really your main threat here is just trying to take a smart putt. If you are going to go for the birdie, make sure you got a good shot, take a safe putt at it, otherwise lay it for par. Hole number 6 here is 252 feet, par 3. Basket is directly behind this tree that we're kind of coming at there. You can kind of see it coming into frame. Most people are going to go out to the right here, maybe right at it. Typically like a putter, maybe a mid. Otherwise, off to the left here, you could also come this route for kind of a safe hyzer back if you had a forehand shot. There's a short pin placement, a little metal cap here down below us here. Obviously brings that creek a little more into play, and the creek is OB. Sometimes for tournaments, the tournament director might make this hole an island hole. I have seen that in the past, based on a previous visit to this course. Otherwise, you're just trying to lay into this flat and take your birdie putt. Hole number 7 here is 426 feet, par 3. Your primary obstacles in your fairway you're going to deal with is this telephone pole, cables, and the tree right in front of us. Otherwise, OB is going to be probably the sidewalk or the street to the right, and depending on tournament director, it could also, for obvious reasons, be the sand volleyball court to the right or playground equipment. Also, there is this creek here that could potentially play as OB, and the creek off to the right, although it's a lot less defined unless there's water in it, so check with your tournament director, make sure to read those rules for teeing off. Most people are going to lay up into this flat here. Your bombers are probably going to push up past this tree right here and get a shot for a birdie. Otherwise, it's a really good separator hole, and you're probably going to see some of the lower field probably taking pars. There's a second pin placement here to the right where there's a metal cap, but not too much difference. In the little infographic that I put to the right there, you can see it's a picture from the PGA's website, and it looks like there was a second tee pad for this hole at one time. Maybe somebody can comment down below and fill in the info on that. Hole number 8 here is 311 feet, par 3. And main thing you're going to deal with here is this kind of a tunnel shot, where you're just going to have to keep it underneath these branches here. That cedar takes away that little hyzer gap to the right that would make this hole a little bit too easy. On the left hand side here, you've got OB left where the road is, and I imagine there would be OB long either where the sidewalk is or the street where that truck is passing currently. The pin placement is currently in the right one. There is a left one where that left tree is by the road that brings that OB a little more into play. Otherwise, this pin placement is kind of a fun one because it brings in a slow, late turning backhand shot or either a great line drive forehand kind of fading out underneath these branches. It's a very picturesque hole. You'll see the metal cap kind of pop into frame here, and that is the alternate pin placement that brings the OB into play. Otherwise, very fun hole to throw on in the summertime when you got that canopy to throw under. Hole number 9 here is 300 feet, par 3. This is another one of these beautiful canopy shots where you're throwing underneath the branches and leaves of these trees when they're in full bloom that the northeast corner of the course is kind of known for. You're going to have to do OB left where the street is, or possibly sidewalk, and then OB long where that car is passing by that road. Basket placement is currently in a long pin position to the right. There is a short one just a little to the left, but not too much difference in how they play. Main things you're going to have to deal with is either an early tree hit, picking too overstable of a disc and going OB left, or cooking them really hard and going OB long. If you do yank one over to the right, make sure to give the people on the next tee a heads up. From looking at the infographic there, it looks like there used to be a second tee pad, but I was unable to find it, so if anyone knows anything about that, comment down below. Hole number 10 here is 364 feet, par 3 uphill. This is another one of these canopy shots, and definitely one of the most difficult out of the three in the northeast corner of the park. People are probably going to follow the line the camera's on for most of their shots. If you do find yourself hyzering out left, you're going to have to deal with those cedar trees. Thankfully, they are trimmed up, so you will be able to shoot underneath them if need be. According to the picture from the PGA's website, there is a tee pad to the left. I was unable to find it, so if anybody knows anything about that, comment down below. You're probably going to find yourself landing in this area around here, and you're going to have to deal with some of these branches off these trees, so keep that in mind. Basket is currently in the left short position. There is a long to the right here where the green cap is coming into frame. And keep in mind there is a bit of a drop off to this hill, so if you push your up shot pretty long, you can find it tricky to get back up. Most of the lower parts of the field are probably going to be playing this one for a 3. Hole number 11 here is 206 feet, par 3, uphill. Probably plays closer to 220, possibly 225, just because of the elevation change. Got OB left there where the road is, possibly a sidewalk, depending on your tournament director. And I'd imagine OB right where the barbed wire fence is. Otherwise, though, this is a safe hole to take an ace run at. You got these pine trees or pine bushes in the background, and that cedar kind of helps stop your advancement. And this is the shortest hole on the course, so great opportunity to take an ace run at it. Most people are going to treat this hole as a must-get birdie to stay pace with the field. There is a metal cap here, and that's the long placement. Otherwise, though, they play pretty much similar to each other. This hole is kind of similar to 5, 6, and eventually you're going to see 18. Hole number 12 here is 294 feet, par 3, uphill. This hole is fairly wide open until you get about 2/3 to maybe 3/4 of the way up the fairway, and then you got to deal with these pine trees to the right, and then this one tree right here, and you can't see it too well until we get under it. It's got these branches that overhang, and especially during the summertime when it's got the leaves on there, you can see it there. It creates a pretty low tunnel to try to navigate. You do have OB left where the street is, possibly the sidewalk, depending on your TD, and then obviously OB long, probably in the fence back there in those yards. We're going past the short pin placement there off to the right that's guarded by those pine trees, and currently the basket's in the long left pin position. Most of the field is probably going to be pretty happy to take a 3 on this hole. If you get a birdie on this one, you're doing pretty good. Hole number 13 here is 560 feet, par 4. This is the bomber hole of the course here. Throwing to the northeast from the northwest corner of the park here. And this is definitely a par 4 based on PDGA guidelines. This would be a par 4 even by 950 rated blue tee standards. Usually most people are going to follow this line, try to hyzer out into this flat. You may go over the top of the trees here, but obviously bring hole number 11 kind of into play. So I could see a TD making a Mando there just to make sure people give them plenty of room and stay off their fairway. OB you're going to have to contend with would be this barbed wire fence long to the north here, and I would imagine possibly those private yards that we passed by earlier back to the left. If you do get down here and you happen to yank one off to the right, I imagine that road would be OB as well. Otherwise though, fairly wide open space to operate in. According to this infographic that I put up here from PDGA's website, there was a second tee for this hole, but I didn't see it. I can't imagine why they would need it for this one, but maybe a shorter kind of a beginner level tee. The second pin placement we just passed by there, not much of a difference, only about 15-20 feet. A lot of the field's going to be pretty happy to get a 4 on this. If you got a 3 on this, you're doing really good. Hole number 14 here is 231 feet, par 3. This is kind of an interesting hole. Some TDs I've heard make this a double Mando with the pine trees that we're just passing through right now. And then if there isn't that, then you can go out left of those cedars there in that wide open field. Obviously that kind of puts you down 7's fairway, so you can definitely see why they would make a Mando to keep you to the right. If you do go down the middle there, that short little pine we just passed, a good target to shoot for. That is the short pin placement we just passed by, and now we're to the long, and you can see the long kind of slopes down, so if you do get a good run on it, you do have to worry about that slide down into the creek there, or the little ditch. Otherwise, this is a great tight shot. Hole number 15 is 370 feet, par 4, according to UDisc. Kind of a controversial par, maybe we'll get into that in just a bit. Creek is your natural OB divider here, between 15's fairway here and 17's off to the left. And it snakes right and then stops about where that pergola is and then continues forward and kind of gets out of the way here of this hole. Typically you want to be to the left side of the fairway here, not the right where the trees are, because otherwise you have a hard time making the mouth of the opening here. It sounds like some tournament directors actually put a Mando left here, so that way people don't cut off the hole and go over the tops of the trees. So if you get down here and you get a shot at this, if you're getting a 3 and you're getting up here, you're doing really good. I think most people will be pretty hard pressed to get that in a 4 would feel pretty good. This is the longest pin placement from the tee box, and there's actually a shorter one over here as the crow flies, but I've heard that they consider this one the long because obviously if you have that Mando, this would be harder to come back towards. You see there's that narrow corridor we were kind of looking at back there, and it seems like this hole originally actually had 2 fairways or 2 tee boxes. And we'll see that in just a second here with the little infographic. There was a picture on the PDJ's website, and it actually depicts 2 different fairways here. One off to the right next to Kelley Park Drive, and then the one off the left, which is the traditional one. It's kind of a shame that other tee pad doesn't exist, because I think it would make this hole make a lot more sense if it was still there, and that short pin placement would truly be the short. If anybody knows anything more about that, maybe if that was actually in existence at some point, feel free to comment down below. And if there is any plans for them to put that in, that would definitely be very interesting. I think this hole almost should have a pin placement in the middle, kind of where that hill is, just a little bit further down. Or either take this basket and push it farther to the southwest, kind of into those trees, so that way, yeah, you could go over the top, but you'd still have quite a ways to go down that area, and there's plenty of room to still work between 15 and 16. Hole number 16 here is 247 feet, par 3. You got OB right where the road is. Typically you don't have vehicles parked up there on the road, but today when I was doing the filming, there was somebody there. Basket placement is currently in the right position. There's a left one, pretty much about the same distance, just closer to this tree in front of us. The deep area past the basket there with the trees does have kind of a bit of a drop off, so watch out for going too far there. It can be pretty nasty trying to come back up, and same thing goes if you go to the left into the trees. Main thing you're kind of worried about here is just that low ceiling that you're kind of having to navigate, and then obviously that chance for a roll away or a skip away depending on what angle you're coming in on the hill. Hole number 17 here is 439 feet, par 3. You got OB left where the creek is. That will meander right at about the pergola separating 15's fairway. You can see off to the right here, you got a lot of thick trees, and those are going to follow all the way down to almost to where the green is. You want to stay out of there. It will definitely take a stroke from you if for some reason you were to get into that. It's actually better to be kind of somewhat left on this fairway, because there's a lot of low overhanging branches on that right side, so keep that in mind. Off the tee box, most people are probably going to play a sidearm, or maybe a late turning backhand shot. Just that way you can kind of get a little bit more of a straight shot at the pin here. You do have this last overhanging branch right here that can kind of knock you down early, leave you a little bit short of the green. Past that, you have these 3 to 4 willows, and if you happen to get deep into one of those, it can definitely obstruct your putt coming back, so probably better to be short than long on this one. When this is in full foliage, this is definitely one of the most beautiful holes on the course. Hole number 18 here is 250 feet, par 3. We kind of have a little bit of a shared tee pad with hole number 6, so keep that in mind for tournaments. They technically are separate, but they are joined. To the right there, we have that spaceship playground for frame of reference for the park. We have these power lines crossing over the fairway. Shouldn't come into play unless you're throwing the tomahawk or like trying to throw a big stall shot. So try to keep that in mind if you can't see those necessarily. The basket is currently in the long left position. We'll be coming up on a metal pad or little covering, and there it is. And that is the short right pin position. Your main threats you got to worry about is going long in this hole and ending up down below the cedars in the forest fairway, or hyzering out to the left, rolling down the hill towards 5. You can see in the little infographic, supposedly there was another tee pad for this hole. If anyone knows anything about that, comment down below.